Welcome to the GAMERamble video review for Whispering Willows, narrated by me, Darkcloud. As always, the full text version of this review can be found on the GAMERamble website linked below. The TLDR for Whispering Willows is that it's not a game that will keep you on the edge of your seat from excitement, but the slower pace and interesting story makes for an engaging experience. Unraveling the mysteries of Willows Mansion and communicating with the lost souls is a unique experience that kept us hooked from start to finish. If you demand quick reflexes or mind-bending puzzles to be entertained, the game may feel boring to you. Still, if you can appreciate a slower paced, engaging experience, this is a great title to add to your collection. Gameplay receives an 8 out of 10. The game is slow paced but very engaging. Graphics receives an 8 out of 10. Whispering Willows features beautiful artwork for the characters and backgrounds. Sound receives an 8 out of 10. The soundtrack is very atmospheric and the sound effects are excellent. The overall score for Whispering Willows is 8 out of 10. And now for the full review. After the mysterious disappearance of her father, Alina Alcorn has a nightmare about him. In her dream, she sees her father trapped in the Willows mansion, where he worked as the groundskeeper, so upon waking she immediately sets out to find him. Arriving at her destination, she encounters a ghostly apparition that causes her to stumble and fall into the catacombs beneath the mansion, where her adventure begins. As Alina, you must explore the Willows mansion and surrounding areas for clues about her father's whereabouts. Her quest is made more interesting thanks to an amulet that she received from her father, which alerts her to the presence of ghosts and allows her to communicate with these lost souls through astral projection. In her ghostly form, Melina can also possess objects such as switches or furniture to solve puzzles, or turn into an orb and float through gaps too small for her physical body. We were expecting a few more puzzles based on the astral projection concept, but the ones in the game are relatively straightforward. Talking to the dead is a blast though, thanks to the excellent character designs, and each one of the spirits has its own reason for haunting the mansion. The phantoms you encounter mostly provide clues about what to do next, but you will also discover notes that flesh out the history of the mansion and the tragedies of the restless souls that inhabit it. Thanks to the hand-drawn visuals, the game looks great and the character designs are excellent. The backgrounds are static but packed with details, which makes exploring the game world really engrossing. There are a few enemies and no combat, so the bulk of the game is centered on exploring your surroundings and finding the necessary items to proceed. A fair bit of backtracking is involved, but overall the game is quite linear and we never had any doubts about where to go next. Alina has a diary you can consult to learn more about what is happening, and all the notes you collect can be viewed at any time. There is no map, but we never felt like we really needed one, and the different areas are distinct enough that it wasn't a problem remembering where to use the objects we acquired. The developers even hid a few items in the game that can be uncovered if you're extra thorough while exploring. The pace of the game is relatively slow, which might frustrate some players who expect this to be an action-oriented title. Alina can run if the circumstances require it, but this happens very infrequently. Certain enemies can also kill her, but these sequences are only a tiny part of the overall game. The game has a very creepy atmosphere, but there's minimal outright horror, and we can't say we encountered genuine scares while playing. As the puzzles are so straightforward, it's also very easy to rush through the game, which is not recommended as it's pretty short. Thanks to the haunting music and excellent sound effects, we frequently stop to admire the environment and soak in the atmosphere. The game sounds great with a decent set of headphones, and while there's no speech, Alina reacts to certain situations with gasps, sighs or laughter. The game automatically saves in certain spots, and it is split into 4 different chapters, so we advise players to take their time and thoroughly explore their surroundings, as it's easy to miss some notes or miss out on the hidden stuff. At the time of writing this review, the game didn't feature controller support, but the developers added it with a later patch. You only use one button to activate your astral powers and another to interact with objects, so playing with a keyboard is perfectly serviceable. We expected Whispering Willows to be a platformer or point-and-click adventure title, so discovering that it's entirely different was a pleasant surprise. It shares some elements with both genres, but the slower pace and lack of serious puzzles make for a different experience. One of our favorite games from the NES era was the Addams Family game, which required players to explore a mansion and gather items to unlock new rooms. Whispering Willows offered a similar engaging experience, albeit at a much slower pace and without any platforming skills required. While it's clear that a small indie team made the game with a limited budget, it is also apparent that there was a lot of heart involved, and for a debut outing it's quite an impressive effort. It's not flawless and probably won't appeal to action fans, but the great art direction, outstanding audio and engaging story make it stand out from the crowd. It's also heartening to see the developers actively responding to feedback and addressing issues brought to their attention. We enjoyed the game enough to complete it in one sitting, and based on what the developers achieved for their first title, we can't wait to see what they deliver next. Thanks for joining me for this Whispering Willows PC review. Remember to like, subscribe and share. Until next time.